For me, I'm ready to be wrong. I just these are my feelings. This is how I feel about these players,
I'm with you.
So here it goes. I'm ready.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you.
So
I
turn my
I
headphones up.
mine's a lot of opinions. I threw some numbers in there like I typically do, but
Of
for the
course.
most part it's
You're
basically
solid
just
ass dude, man. I don't
appreciate it.
say it enough. Sorry
Uh,
about that Chase Brown stuff.
oh, you're good. Speaking of which, any chance on you moving back from the 1-3 in roasted?
Yeah, there's a chance if no, there's not a chance.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Oh, good man. Good, good, good. I genuinely, off the top here, I've got to say that being such close friends with a Minnesota Vikings fan,
Woof.
it just is so relentless.
Yeah, it is tough.
So I always have to remember it could always be worse. Like
Mm,
first off, I could be wearing purple, but
yeah.
then like also, the misery that goes along with it. So,
hmm
but yeah, what about you, Christian? What's up, dude? You're probably ready to roll.
I'm doing well.
Packers,
Feeling
baby.
good. I was gutted by the McCarthy news. I'm a big McCarthy fan. He may come up later, obviously, in the podcast. But other than that, yeah, just chilling, getting excited for the season. First week of preseason's in. We've seen a couple of these guys, which is pretty exciting. And if you've been with us, we just wrapped up our divisional breakdown. All the divisions were covered. And so now we're going to bring it back to what the heart of this podcast is all about. And that is the rookies, obviously. We are a dynasty podcast. So we are going to go back into the rookies with a repeat of an episode we did last year. We're shortening it. We're not going to do a whole episode on it this year, but we're going to do ring around a rookie. So we're going to look at the top 3 rounds of rookie drafts and pick a guy that we like better than their current dynasty rookie draft ADP. We are also going to hit you today with some flag plants, as in guys that we are going to die on the hill and plant our flag that these guys are NFL caliber fantasy values and studs going forward. And then we're going to do some quick sleepers and some quick busts going through all these rookies. So we got a lot coming at you today, and I'm excited to dive back into these rookies. Do you want to go ahead and get us started with round one? Who do you like better than their
Oh my
ADP?
gosh. This is difficult, man.
Yeah.
Round one, I thought, kind of come out looking pretty solid,
Mm,
especially this is such a weird class that's like deep, but shallow, some positions are deep. But I had to go with Brian Thomas, man.
mm.
And I know people are gonna say I'm crazy, but he's going to like the 107-ish.
Mm,
And man, I've got opinions about all of these guys. I really wanted to reach out for Lad McConkey in this one, but I couldn't bring him down. But for me, the weakness of this class is the running back position. And I think that the strength of that position as it goes into fantasy, it's like everyone's always looking for another running back, looking for a starting running back. And we keep getting these young wide receivers that are coming out. And they're startable. They're holding it down for us. But just the desperation on the running back front has kind of put things into a weird swing. And I personally think that, maybe if he's just moving up one spot or two, I think that he should be going over Jonathan Brooks. I know
mm.
we're all hungry for a running back out of every class, but for me, this is about opportunity.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas is coming in. And you got Zay Jones and Calvin Ridley. They leave behind about 200 targets. Gabe Davis comes in. Maybe the dude's good for 80 targets, but then Thomas comes in with a clear path with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram there to really give the defense something to worry about. So he has like a low profile, high volume situation that I think he could really thrive in. And because of that, I'm thinking he should get the tip of the cap, man. I mean, Brooks, on the other hand, he's already injured. It's a Carolina team that isn't going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns, which you really need for your running back situations. And I don't want to, go jumping on anything you're about to say, but I think about Lad McConkey in the same lens with Brian Thomas, and as a rookie, he could be asked to be the team's number one, which puts him in a different situation. For better or for worse than Brian Thomas is, with a little bit of love from the Kirk Ingram combo on his squad. So call me crazy, but that's what I'm going with on the little bit higher round one. Give me Brian Thomas.
That's fair. We've always kind of not seen eye to eye on Brian Thomas Jr., and I think we do a little bit here. The reports I'm seeing are like Gabe Davis seems to be like the more reliable guy, where Brian, or sorry, Gabe Davis and then Brian Thomas Jr. is more of the deep threat right now.
Yep.
And so that's okay. That's not terrible. I don't really believe in the Jaguars as a whole. I think they're the third
Okay.
best team in their division, and so I don't hate it. I get what you're saying. I do like him more than say Xavier Worthy, who goes in front of him.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
I don't know. I guess that's tough to say. I don't know. I
Yeah,
just
it seems.
they're
Yeah,
both
I
kind of
know.
boom or
I
busty to
agree.
me, which is both like guys I'm not. That's just not where I'm at with those kind of guys, personally. But I see what you're saying, and I'm ready to be wrong because he is like an super athlete and a playmaker. At least he was in college, and so like he could rise above it and take that kind of number three-ish role if you count Ingram and Kirk, and then Gabe Davis and him kind of fighting for that three spot. So I see where your head's at. So don't necessarily disagree. I was toying with McConkey really, really hard in this.
Mm.
He comes up later, so I'll just
Okay.
leave it at
Okay.
that. So I didn't want to talk about the same guys over and over. So I actually went with Jaden Daniels for round one. And just to throw
Nice.
a little bit of annoyance in the mix, I went away from the Fantasy Pros ADP and I went with Draft Sharks because they do like the sleeper index. Um, Fantasy Pros had Jaden Daniels at like the 1.9, and the sleeper index had him at 112. So like kind of just, I mean, back into the first round, doesn't matter. I like him better than that. The reports on Jaden Daniels coming out of camp are like tremendous right now. He obviously has the incredible arm talent and he's hyper athletic, but this is what's really getting me fired up about him. Stuff like Albert Breer for SI.com was writing about the constant praise Jaden Daniels is getting from his teammates, not just about the play, but like the way he's carrying himself, his understanding of the playbook already, and most importantly, his ability to check in and out of different looks is super early. Like, or he's already developed that trait super early from where everyone expected him to be, and he's doing it at a high success rate. Apparently, even the super great throw he made to De'Ami Brown on third down on the preseason game, apparently that was checked out of a run call. And he checked into that. And so like that's the kind of stuff that gets me really fired up about this kid. So if you add in that, we know he has the arm talent and we have the rushing ability that gives him the obvious upside of some of these other fantasy quarterbacks. I think some of these wide receivers in the first round might get off to slow starts. You already mentioned Brooks and him being hurt, so he's going to probably get slow and eased back in. I think Daniels by mid-season could have people kicking themselves that they didn't take him. Maybe not necessarily for the rest of their careers or anything, but like at their ADPs as they stand, I could see some people wishing they would have taken Jaden Daniels.
Oh yeah. I got him at a later moment. So I'm in 100% agreement with you. I mean, yeah, what I mean, you said it all. The guy is outstanding, and there's not much that's going to hold him back. I guess I could always save a little nugget for later on him,
Okay. Yeah.
but yeah, that's solid, man.
Mm.
I'll save a little bit for my next go round with him.
Okay.
Man, I'm getting in the second round, and I'm sorry that I'm doing this to you. And you can just stop me at any point if the bus is already rolling for you. But I had to go with Jalen Wright
Hmm.
on the second round. Um, like I
Makes
said, I'm
sense.
sure you're gonna bring him up at some point.
Yeah, and that's again why he was penciled in right here at no at the second round, and then I kind of just moved him
Hmm.
somewhere else. So I'm with you 100%.
Perfect. Yeah, well, so for me, the 206 here, he's going after guys like Xavier Legette, AD Mitchell, and Blake Corum. And for me, those three 100% should be going after Jalen Wright. And
Yeah.
obviously, I like the setup in Miami. It's probably one of the juiciest running back situations out there,
Uh-huh.
just because of the way the relentless passing game opens things up for them.
Hmm.
And he got the start, or while he played in the second and third quarters there in the preseason, and had 10 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown.
Yep.
And that's not with any kind of passing work, which we know is electric for him. We saw it at Tennessee. So
Yeah.
just the way that this team doesn't really care what your name is,
Hmm.
and the talent he brings and the options he gives to this squad. I just think, I don't know, I kind of can squint and picture him being like the baseline back with A Chain being more of that, explosiveness, change
Hmm.
of pace type stuff. So maybe I'm crazy, but yeah, he's around the 206, and it's like I need him higher than that, man. Like, I don't want to need to say like maybe over Benson, but I think like we might look back and say
I
this
was
was
I
an
was
obvious
honking
choice, you know?
I was honking about that in the off season. I had Wright above all these guys at one point. I kind of eased back off of it a little bit because I was scared, but I'm not scared anymore because I'm with you 100%. I think Wright's going to be awesome. I think Wright is going to be on the field quite a bit, more
Mhm.
than people expect. I do think it's still going to be that triple-headed attack. Obviously, he's not going to be like a solidified go-to guy in fantasy, at least not right away. But he does have
Right.
size on Achan, like you're saying. So once that 32-year-old Raheem Mostert kind of gets gone,
Mhm.
not trying to be mean about it, I guess that came off weird. I didn't mean that. He's been a great player, but just like he is 32 and he's a running back. So once
He's
it's
not the future.
yeah, once it's right and Achan, like I think you're kind of right. I think Jalen Wright has the body type to carry more of a load, whereas Achane is more of the change of pace explosive guy. I'll get into a little more about Wright, probably not all that much more. We kind of already talked
Uh,
about it in a little bit, but
okay.
so the second round to me was maybe a little harder than the first round. There were a few guys I looked at. I'm not a big Adonai fan, but with the Josh Downs injury, he's shown a little bit, and that was kind of intriguing there. Obviously, Jalen Wright.
Rooting for him.
Roman Wilson was an interesting name here. Um, I ended up going with Marshawn Lloyd.
Okay.
I still like him more than his 2.9 ADP, which is what I had. I think it was like 2.8 or 2.7 on the Fantasy Pros. And Lloyd has had an injury-plagued camp since preseason started. And he doesn't have a timetable for return yet. So that is a little worrying. However, I think he's the clear RB2 in this offense for the
Wow.
Packers. I really like I love AJ Dillon. He's a great guy. Um, super fun to be like on your team. But he got paid $1.3 million this year, and they basically kind of had it in writing that he wasn't going to come back, and then he took that as the deal because the coaching staff likes him and he loves being in Green Bay, basically. I don't see him as the second guy there anymore. His time as that second person I just think is likely to be over this year. And so to me Lloyd is going to see like 100 to 150 carries as soon as he gets healthy. And then we still like everyone wants to be in and out on Jacobs or whatever. They signed him to like a 1 year deal ish. I just think Marshawn Lloyd's explosive running style could lead to some decent games out of him, and that's barring any sort of like Josh Jacobs injury already. And Josh Jacobs obviously has been one of the healthier backs in the league, so I'm not expecting him to get hurt or anything. But let's say it doesn't work out and they move on from him, and then Marshawn Lloyd is this explosive guy that they took in the third round, which is pretty high for
Yeah.
Gutekunst. I mean, Aaron Jones was a fifth round pick, and they used him for years. So I'm pretty excited about him. I do think he'll end up, like, as soon as he gets healthy, if he gets healthy, he'll end up being the second guy to Jacobs. And we've seen LaFleur run guys enough to have value. I mean, AJ Dillon's been hanging on people's rosters for 4 years now. And so, like, I mean, he's been in and out of effectiveness. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Honestly, this second round got pretty tough for me, and I wanted to use guys in other spots. So I ended up going Marshawn Lloyd here.
Yeah, yeah, the guys in other spots thing. This is like this. Honestly, I was telling the wife, I was like, man, picking the names was the hard part, Like
Hmm.
once you get the names, then
Then it's easy.
it's pretty smooth sailing,
Yeah.
Like we know these guys so well at this point.
Hmm.
But man, it was some tough decisions with all these categories. But
Yeah.
I like that Lloyd. I like that pick right there. I mean, man, that USC stuff. I like there's so much potential there. So
Yeah.
I'll get behind that. In the third round, I had to do what I always do. Broken records be damned. I'm going Bucky Irving on
Okay.
this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess it's hard to find like a solid ADP. Like Fantasy Pros has him at 36th. And so that's and then keep trade cuts got him at 31. So it's
Mm.
pretty wide, but it's second half of the third round. And I've got four rookie drafts under my belt this offseason so far. And in three of the four of those, he's been outside the top 34 players. And he's really being routinely drafted behind Ray Davis,
Hmm.
which that's kind of where I'm at. Like where I think these guys should be ahead of other players is
Hmm.
where I'm going with moving them on the ADP. But as far as like the tape, the grades, and the stats, like I get it. Bucky and Ray Davis are pretty comparable when you look at it through like just kind of wherever they've been. But if you look at the age with Ray Davis a little bit older, and for me, it's a Rashad White versus James Cook kind of conversation and the team built that they're on. And I think I like Cooks better than White at this point. And then if you're adding in, Josh Allen's tendency to dominate the red zone work, I just really look at Irving as more of a 1B style running back. I don't think that Rashad White's ever going to get that workload that he got last year's like 270 plus carries.
Hmm.
So I think that they want to have another back to rely on. And so I think it's just bad timing. Like Bucky Irving got slept on a little bit in the NFL draft. I was surprised he's still the sixth running back off the board in the fourth round. But I think that he's got a lot of potential, and I think that that's really that Rashad White year that blew up that's keeping people scared of Bucky
Hmm.
Irving. But I think he's got a ton of potential. I'm still fully in on him, and I think he should be up the boards quite a bit. So that's that.
Interesting. Yeah, no, he's been popping a little bit in preseason and everything. He was a player we both liked coming out. Got a lot of agility. Reminded us kind of Kyron Williams in that way, where maybe the athletic score wasn't crazy, but the agility score was cool. So I do like that. Ironically enough, I went with Ray Davis. Um,
Nice, nice.
I think just
Well,
similar to
there you go.
Lloyd, similar to Marshawn Lloyd, I think Ray Davis is already the clear number two there. And while his career won't be very long for you, it's so in terms of a dynasty pick, it is what it is. But on the sleeper index, he was the 311, and I just couldn't ignore that. Like that's some crazy value to
Right,
me. I if he's higher than that, like it I didn't have him when I thought he was in the higher part of the third round because I thought that sounded about right, if that makes sense. Like if you take Ray Davis 3-3, 3-4, wherever, that makes sense to me. But at 311, that's kind of pushing it. I think he should go before that. I know the Bills are all in on James Cook, and they should be.
right.
Absolutely. He looked great. And he showed he could handle a full-time workload with 237 carries last season, which was his most by far in his even collegiate career. And he had 54 targets on top of that. But I do imagine the Bills want to spare him while they can, especially while they develop this new wide receiver core. And Davis, to me, can occupy that Latavius Murray role, which isn't a crazy good role, but he did manage 4 touchdowns, which does mean to me that like there's some chance for some red zone work in there. And Ray Davis being a little bit bigger, I just could see him having like a pop game or two. So I like him at the 311, but I mean Bucky Irving, Ray Davis, I think those are the two guys to go after. I was kind of in on Keami Vidal. Sounds like he might get cut. So
Yeah.
so like
Whoops.
so in the third round, if you're trying to get a running back, I think it's Ray Davis or Bucky Irving.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the thing you mentioned, right, with the depth chart, like both those
Hmm.
guys are clearly, no competition for the number 2 role.
Hmm.
And especially in Tampa Bay, like they keep
Yeah.
going back and back to running back hoping for something. And
Hmm.
I think they might have got it right this time. But yeah, I'm looking at both these players as definitely being reliable, surprising kind of guys. Such a shallow talent pool in the running back
Yeah.
room at
This
this
year was
draft class,
tough.
and then
Yeah.
Garindo injury, Tracy injury, like
Yeah.
you know things are getting a little bit weird. So cool, sweet, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
I
Well,
like
that is
it.
our
Ray Davis.
ring
I didn't see anything
around
about him.
a ring around a rookie for you. So now let's get into some flag plants. So just to clarify what this means, flag plants slash like starters for the 2024 season. We can take this one of two ways, guys that you think are going to be awesome just this year, or like if you want to flag plant your guy on on his entire career, it was kind of where we went with it. So yeah, these are just guys that we are completely sold on that we will be trying to get in most of our drafts, if not all of them. So do you want to hit us with your first guy?
Yes, yes, and this is I did 4 favorite starters and 1 super flag plant. So
There you go.
this is a starter, a guy that is one of my favorite fantasy starters, day 1, baby. And I've been up and down, I've been round and round, but I'm back. I'm back. Keon Coleman, dude.
Okay.
Give him to me. 241 targets available from Diggs and Davis.
Hmm.
I get it. People love their Shakir.
Yeah.
He's up. He's an up and comer, man. But I don't think he's the number 1. I don't think he's got that alpha energy. Curtis Samuel only limited by the playbook, but again, he's not going to be a squad defining wide receiver.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, they need somebody to lead this room, and it's Coleman for me. And I guess I don't get it. I don't get it with like if I don't get it. Okay, if they wouldn't have traded back, if they would have taken him in the first round, does that make a difference? I think is that what's hitting people weird? Because this is Buffalo. Do you guys, I mean, are we forgetting who the quarterback is? This is Josh
Hmm.
Allen. He's made Stephon Diggs the man that he is. That Minnesota stuff had nothing to do with the success Stephon Diggs immediately had as a Bill. Obviously, that's a little bit of a joke, but we're not looking for someone to come in here and be the number 2 wide receiver when Diggs walks out the door. We're looking for someone to come in and make this team not look dumb for the way that situation went. And I think they're going to lean on Coleman, and I think he can do it. I don't have to keep saying this, but one of my favorite things about Coleman is the success he had at Florida State after joining the squad after the spring practices had been done. It was like one of the last days to transfer. He got there and kind of just found a way to be successful. I've talked about his made up routes and things like that. But if he has the trust of his quarterback, he has the ability to come down with the ball and he has the ability to make big plays and big catches. So I think let him have it, man. There's no rookie out there with a greater target share available and the lesser or lower competition level to deal with.
I'm I'll follow up on that point in just a second. But the
I,
Keon
I got the
Coleman
notes. I'm ready.
the Keon Coleman stuff, if you've listened to this podcast, he was not a guy that I was super in on. But I mean, you are right. There is an opening for a wide receiver 1 there. I tend to think that the way the Bills are going to not look stupid is by relying fully on Josh Allen and letting him distribute the ball where he needs to instead of relying on one guy. And I feel like at least for this season, it will be more of a distribution to Shakir, Curtis Samuel, and Keon Coleman, and then Dalton Kincaid's going to get fit in there. So I think it's going to
Man,
be less about a guy getting 180 million targets and more about like six guys getting at least 50, like something crazy like that.
sure.
Um,
But
so
no,
yeah, not that many, obviously, but I do see where you're coming from,
possible.
and I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Keelan Coleman has like super awesome energy. He seems like a great kid, so he's like definitely one of the ones I hope I'm wrong about. And he has shown in camp the ability, like he still like my issues with him is the separation stuff, but
Right.
he has shown an ability even in camp so far to get around that. Like maybe he's not super separating yet, but he's still making catches and still doing what he needs to do and getting a hold of the ball. And we've seen all the crazy catches he can do. So I'm rooting for the kid. I hope and I like the Bills. So like I really hope it works out. I don't have any shares, probably won't get any. Maybe if he falls to me.
Never too late.
Maybe we have one more super flex draft coming up, and I do have two second round picks. I don't know that he falls to the second, but maybe he'll be right there. Um, that said,
Oh, he'll be there.
the point I wanted to argue on though, no rookie with a greater target share available or worse talent around. Did Malik Neighbors die? What? Who's competing with
Listen,
Malik Neighbors for his target share? Because that's
I
where
knew
I'm
this was
planting my
coming.
flag. I'm sorry,
I'll give you Malik Neighbors,
you're way
obviously.
bigger
Do
on Jalen Wright and I think a little bit on
no,
Lawrence.
no. I mean, I do like Neighbors. I'm heating way up on him, but I've got all these guys in their share available, and it's 134 targets between Darren Waller and Saquon Barkley. That's what I got for Neighbors.
Sure,
So
but they're gonna completely shift the offense for Malik Neighbors, though. Like he's a complete game changer. Nobody on that field is nearly as talented as him. And I know this isn't going out of
absolutely.
stretch. Planting my flag on Malik Neighbors, he was the what eighth or sixth pick or something crazy. So like, it's not a flag plant, but my flag is more planted in the fact that I think Malik Neighbors is going to have the best rookie season of any of the wide receivers in this class. I'm sorry. And I know that he has the worst roster around him. I know he has the worst quarterback around him. But so did Garrett Wilson when he won Rookie of the Year in 2022. And so did Odell Beckham Jr. when he did it in 2014 on the same fucking team with a shitty quarterback. So I think there are
Uh,
people that can get around this. And Malik Neighbors is going to get a bajillion targets this season. He's going to get limited in the red zone, I think, which is something I bring up a little later. But I just think there is no one in this offense that can compete with him, and he's going to get a lion's share of the targets. Sure, they're not going to be great targets, but if he gets like 180 of them and he only catches 115, that's still a great season that he could have 1,000 yards with. Do I think he does a great touchdown department? Probably not. Maybe he doesn't win Rookie of the Year either. We've got two pretty exciting
it's gonna be
quarterbacks
tough.
coming out. So like it's gonna be tough for him, but I could see him having a Garrett Wilson or Odell type season in their rookie years on bad teams.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's the 4,400 yard Peyton Manning season, man. See that Daniel Jones do that, but
That's
no,
fair.
dude, Neighbors is amazing, and
Hmm.
of course, he's gonna get out. He's gonna out target Keon Coleman, no question
Hmm.
about it. Um, I just, yeah, obviously, Neighbors is to the moon. It's just hard to find something good to say about him, other than he is electric and amazing and one man army, and he's gonna
It's
need
fair.
it because there are no reinforcements
There are
on that
none.
giant squad. So,
He's got to be the guy.
but. I love it, man. I'm really, really, he's probably the player I'm most excited to watch, see if he can overcome his situation because he seems like the guy that can do it. So
Yeah,
I'm,
and
I'm, I'm about it. I got
that's
no
where I'm
neighbors
planting.
shares and
Now,
hell
yeah,
yeah,
that was a
I'm
high
with
end
you.
one, obviously. So in
Nah,
terms of
dude,
the
you
talent
got to do
pool,
what you got to do.
but
Time will
you,
tell if I end up with any of these other flag plant guys I got on the list because yeah, Jaden Daniels was going to be
yeah,
flag plant for me.
yep.
This is purely, I mean, you've already touched on a ton of what he has going for him, but let's just all remember 1,100 yards on the ground last year, 10 touchdowns. It's gonna be awesome. Something about like Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. The combination of this rushing attack doesn't scare me when it
Mhm.
comes to what he's going to do with the football in his hand. And I know they're probably not going to want him to run like crazy. But when you look at the way the squad's built, if he can get things going through the air enough to spread things out and lighten the load, he's going to be scrambling. He's going to be running. We've watched enough of his film to know, like he knows what he's doing. He's not scrambling. He's a decisive quarterback. He'll hit one read, hit two reads, and then go. If he sees the lane open, his third read is a rushing lane, like every time.
Mhm.
So he's just different when it comes to the quarterback position. And if he can, if he can overcome the size disadvantage, I mean, you want to talk about rookie of the year
Mhm.
offensively. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be a fight. This is going to be a hell of a year to watch these rookies
Honestly,
come out. But
gun to my head, if I had to make a bet for rookie of the year right this moment, I would pick Jaden Daniels.
hell
Like
yeah.
I would
Hell
pick him
yeah.
over Caleb Williams. And it's not, I think Caleb Williams is great. I think he's in a great situation. I just think the combined ability of Jaden Daniels on the ground and through the air. Now, you could argue the Bears are going to be a better team, but I don't think that really matters as much for rookie of the year. So, like,
No.
that's more of an MVP type thing. So I mean, maybe if they're really close, you could start to make that argument. But I feel like to really make a point in that argument, the Bears would have to make the playoffs, which seems like a stretch. But who knows,
Here we
man.
go, baby.
But yeah, I'm all in on Jaden Daniels as well. I did not quite flag pant him, but I will keep it in the quarterback room. And this one, I thought about taking this one out, because it was tough. Because the injury news was an absolute crusher to me on JJ McCarthy. I thought he looked great in the preseason. The two touchdown throws he had were just really phenomenal throws, in my opinion. And Vikings camp has been the absolute hype train for him. Seems like he's got a great mindset on him. I mean, after the surgery, he's quoting Marcus Aurelius from Gladiator on Instagram and stuff about it. Like he just seems like a good kid. And so as much as it pains me as like a Packers fan, I am rooting for him because I do think he's going to be good. And I think he has the skill set to succeed at a high level in the NFL, especially when he's paired with a great offensive mind and a myriad of weapons, which Minnesota has both of those. So hopefully he'll be able to sit here for the next year and kind of just absorb as much as possible on the sideline. Honestly, if I were him, I would be glued to Kevin O'Connell's hip on the sideline and just
For
trying to
sure.
get as much information as possible. I mean, even Justin Jefferson was singing the kid's praises while he was doing interviews on the sideline, talking about I'm not even JJ anymore. He's JJ. I'm just Jetta's now, and it's like, damn, like everybody was in on this kid, and then it just came crumbling down, like you mentioned at the top for Vikings fans. That's just, man, that's a really tough look. And then you had the Addison news come in this today. Seems like that one they kind of got away with, knock on wood for him.
Yeah.
Um, but I think he'll be back next year, and I expect big things out of him. So I'm gonna leave my flag planted in the McCarthy career, even though he's not gonna help us out this season. I'm still in on them.
Yeah, respect on the flag. As a fantasy dynasty community, we move so fast when it comes to,
Yeah.
like what have you done for me lately? And you know, we grind so much film on these rookies, and then the next crop comes, and we're looking, we're dropping guys, we're trading guys, we're future picks, be damned. It's about the now. And so he brings up, it's going to be a lesson learned. So I think you're right to hold out hope for him. Everyone's got an IR spot, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So let's keep him relevant because he's going to be back and it's going to be awesome. So
I think so, yeah.
I'm with you.
This one had a more bummer
But
overtones than I wanted it to, but
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, there's no cool way to talk about it. I mean,
yeah.
you know, but if we go to different injury news with the silver lining here, I'm going to go back to the Roman Wilson podcast,
Mm.
because I just
Welcome
can't
back,
not.
baby.
Because yeah, we never left. We were here. Um, yeah, I don't care about no stinking ankle thing. You know what I mean? The dude's out of the boot, out of the
Mhm.
brace, and he's gonna 100% out target Van Jefferson.
Mm.
So he's easily the number two wide receiver on this team. Ayuk, man, he's not coming to Pittsburgh, right? Can we just get him a contract with the Niners and let's get over it? I think that there's a big year coming for Wilson. I think that we have two quarterbacks with a lot to prove. And Mike Tomlin, he's going to be a creative scrapper. He's going to figure out how to make some things happen enough to get this defense to get this team by. They're going to need a little bit of offense. And I think it's coming. You can't have a NFL team success without having a second wide receiver in most cases. So I don't know, man. We've said plenty about Roman Wilson, about his dedication to the game and the way he plays and his execution and the concentrations when the ball's headed his way. He just makes the most of his opportunities, a very efficient player. And I think that that's exactly what this team needs to kind of silence what I can only call like an uninvited drama and just a disruptive kind of offseason unnecessarily. So I
Mhm.
think he's the guy that can give people something positive to talk about up in Pittsburgh personally.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you said it all. It's hard, but we're gonna stay here because he was also a flag plant for me. Because of course he was. It's the Roman Wilson podcast. Because I'm 100% with you.
Is.
Fuck a walking boot. Apparently, he's gonna be back for the final preseason game. Like, let's
Hell
go.
yeah.
Sign me up. So obviously you mentioned the Ayuk trade. That's lingering around. That does hurt his value if he goes there. I mean, if Ayuk shows up in Pittsburgh, Wilson is clearly the three after Pickens and Ayuk. However, even if
Sure.
that does happen, he just slides kind of into the slot, which would be fine for him. So I
Probably
don't
where it
even,
should go anyway.
yeah, exactly. So it's not even like he would hurt that bad. I just think I don't know that they're going to throw the ball that much. That would be my worry about him being the three in the offense, and then kind of the four at that point because you're getting to Frymouth. But if it doesn't happen, then he's absolutely the wide receiver two there, and I think he's going to get peppered with targets because as you talk about, he's just one of those guys, hardworking, gets open, catches everything in sight. And I do think people forget, I feel like, that he can play outside and can go deep. He ran a four three
Oh yeah.
nine. It's like people I feel like people just are completely sleeping on him. I think he's gonna have a Jaden Reed like rookie season in terms of coming kind of out of nowhere and being fairly productive and ending up in like the wide receiver 20s area, or kind of mid 20s ish. I think I would not be surprised at all. I mean, you're kind of relying on the Pittsburgh offense to pick it up, which I hope so. I hope it will happen. I think the quarterback play is going to be better. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. I love Roman Wilson, so so that
Hell
makes
yeah.
sense. I can get into another one since we kind of ate each other there.
Of course.
So I mentioned it earlier. I'll stay in the wide receiver room. It's Lad McConkey planting that flag.
Yeah.
There's a decent chance, in my opinion, that Lad McConkey catches more passes in his rookie season than Rome Odunze, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., and Xavier Worthy. I genuinely believe that. Justin Herbert just lost his safety blanket for the first time in his entire career in 3 healthy seasons with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen averaged 105 catches. Keenan Allen, and in 2022, he caught 66 in 10 games. So he was on his way to the same thing. He just kept getting hurt. But the ways Keenan Allen wins his routes are very similar to the way Lad McConkey does it. He does it through route running, he does it through separation and having awesome hands. He's not some crazy super athlete. He's not sprinting down the field and mossing people. He's wide open and Justin Herbert trusts him. That's Lad McConkey. That he is going to step into that role. It's not going to be DJ Chark or Quentin Johnston. Like those guys are not going to be Justin Herbert's new pepper volume target guy. That is going to be Lad McConkey because he's even a little faster than Keenan Allen. Now, Keenan Allen's a little bigger than him, So, I mean, make your arguments there, whatever. But the point is, what McConkey does well is get open, separate from the receivers, and catch everything in sight. Justin Herbert, it may take a minute, and Jim Harbaugh is that's the lingering issue here in terms of the volume that he's going to get because we don't know how much they're going to throw the ball at all. But
Sure.
I just think of any of the guys on the roster to replace the Keenan Allen role, it is Lad McConkey. That's what they brought him in to do. Now, is there going to be that exact Keenan Allen role? Probably not. It's a different offense, but in terms of who Justin Herbert is going to want to throw to the most, I think it's clearly going to be McConkey.
Yeah, no, you'll get no argument from me. I really like the guy a lot. I'm gonna have to snipe him from you in a draft coming up, possibly. But the thing is, right, until we know what
Mm,
Harbaugh's plan is with this offensive attack, it's hard to project.
hmm
Keenan Allen to me is one of one. I
Yeah,
mean, what,
that's
150
fair.
targets last year?
True.
Like that's not happening, rookie year at
hmm
all, for any of these guys
Yeah.
except for maybe Harrison and Neighbors. But dude, I love Lad. I can't take anything away from you on this. I don't think that Josh Palmer can really hold him off. It's kind
hmm
of like a Shakir Coleman situation to me when I'm looking at Palmer and McConkey. I favor the rookie heavily in both those matchups, so I'm with you on that.
Cool, cool.
So I don't know. I'm with you.
You got another one
Well,
for me then?
all right. What do we got? Yeah, I got two more. I
Okay.
teammates really, but number one up is Malachi Corley.
Mm,
So.
okay.
That's what's going on. I think, and maybe it's just me, but I think that people don't remember how highly the Jets took him.
Yeah.
He was the first pick in the third round. He was the second pick for the Jets,
hmm
and it's for good reason. This team had Tyler Conklin as the third highest targeted player at 87 targets last year. That's
Yikes.
insane that Tyler Conklin got 87 targets. It's Corley, dude. I mean, I get it that Mike Williams is on the squad, but like
Mm,
he's injured, he's completely unreliable, and I don't think that they're going to make him a household name. I don't, I hate saying this kind of stuff, but I feel it like there's a chance for like some Randall Cobb type vibes coming out with Corley and Aaron Rodgers,
okay.
and I feel like he is a supreme complement to Garrett
Garrett
Wilson
Wilson.
in this pass attack. Yeah, so I mean, he's just physical, he's aggressive. He took things from people, including, yardage, catches, touchdowns. He was just relentless. And I think you get a guy like that, it's kind of crazy to say because, this team just went through Elijah Moore, who had some of those aggressive traits that didn't work pan out for them. But I
hmm
think that he's got a clear path to being the number two wide receiver on this team that is pretty well rounded in the skill position game, except for, tight end, whatever. But
hmm
they really need a guy to step up to be the number two wide receiver. And you have the identity of this offense going forward. So I think he slots into a really a necessary role on this team. And I think he'll have success in that role
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
personally.
I liked Corley coming out. I'm skeptical of investing more in the Jets, I think, at this point. Just because I have so many Garrett Wilson shares and have been trying to get them to go. But if the offense starts rolling, I mean, you're right. Like he's at least the three there, and then if not the two, if
Whoa,
Mike Williams doesn't kick around
Mike
and stay
Williams,
healthy.
who?
So
Okay.
yeah, there could be some interesting. I mean, we've seen Rodgers kind of take a little while to get going with some of his receivers before, so that might be against you a little bit. But other than that, the opportunity should be there, hopefully, as long as they're gonna use him, or I guess as long as Rodgers throws to him. And it's just about kind of making the plays when they're there. Which he's a playmaker, so I liked him a lot coming out of Western Kentucky as well.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
so
So I
I
guess
Go ahead.
let's.
I
Do
have
you have you've
one.
done all five?
No, I have one
You have
left.
one more.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew. All right. I'm
Yeah, we
sorry.
should be
Keep going.
good.
Yeah.
So it was kind of mentioned earlier, and you talked about him quite a bit. So I'm kind of ending on maybe not the most exciting flag plant, but Jalen Wright, it is. I'm back on board. He showed not that I was ever off board, but in terms of him being like arguably the RB1 in this class, weak class, but still. He showed off the playmaking ability in his first preseason game. I mean, if you haven't watched it, go check it out. There's a guy who I should have got his name, but a guy who put all his snaps together on YouTube, and man, he had to literally change sides of the field one time. He tried to run to the right and it got shut down and blocked up, and he literally just and I think he like fumbled the snap or something too, and or fumbled the pitch or whatever. And then they had to just turn around and run, and he ran all the way to the other side of the field and ran up the left side of the field and got a first down because he's just a freaking playmaker, man. And he's a incredibly efficient runner, which I think is going to translate super well to Mike McDaniel's like shared committee style and scheme. You mentioned how the passing game opens it up for them. And then you look at Jalen Wright, who had 6 yards per carry in his sophomore season at Tennessee, 7.4 yards per carry in his junior year, and neither one of those seasons did he have over 150 carries. So he's used to kind of working with the amount of workload that he gets. It's the depth chart is obviously against him. You have Mostert there, like we mentioned earlier, but he is 32, and Wright's only 21. So he's got age on his side as well as age is against Mostert there. So you might have to wait in terms of him being like a consistent startable asset for you. You might have to wait till next year. But I'm planning that flag. I already mentioned how he has the size on Achan, and I like Achan and him as a dual combo back there in Mike McDaniel's offense anyway. I maybe it limits them from ever being RB1s or even like RB like top 12 RBs necessarily, but like you could see them both as like RB2 potential, which I think is really intriguing for the Dolphins.
Yeah, yeah. Enough said. Go watch some Tennessee highlights on this guy.
Yeah, it was
We know what
fun.
it is. It's time for the rest of the world to figure it out, I guess. I think I got no shares of him. Oh well.
It's because I got all
Can't
of
have
them.
every single player, man. Yeah, I know.
I
Yeah,
think I think
that's all right.
literally in
That's all right, man. As long as one of us
no, I
has a
didn't.
success.
I did not get him in the fresh duds draft. Actually, never mind.
Well, that sucks. That was my only option to. That's my only opportunity to get him from me, probably. But one guy I do have some shares of is Braylon Allen. So
Mhm.
what's up on the flag plant? Obviously, Jets again.
Mhm.
Obviously, Brees Hall, we know what it is. But Braylon Allen is a player that was electric. He like really turned heads coming out as young as he did in Wisconsin and had like massive success. And things kind of cooled off there. But he is that player still. And he hit the ground running. I thought it was pretty much perfect the way he played in week one of preseason, having 6 carries and 54 yards. He had a nice catch. They got called back on a penalty, but I think yeah, he's establishing himself as a number two back in this offense. And I hate to say it, like I don't know, I'm just this is the episode where I say crazy stuff right after I say I hate to say it, but I really do think there's an opportunity for some of those like those big play, the way Brees Hall breaks off huge chunks, kind of like Saquon has in the past, or like Nick Chubb has. And then I think that, Braylon Allen could come in and be like, hey, dude, have a drink of water. Let me get a couple 20, 30 yards of a touchdown real quick while you're catching your breath, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So I'm keeping an eye on him. Obviously, he's nowhere near even like a 1B situation in this offense, but I do think there's enough of a role available to him, and that the way the Jets have just constantly peppered the running back position in drafts, like they're looking for something.
Hmm.
And if he keeps this kind of, very small sample size, if he keeps this kind of work up, I think he, can demonstrate that he is exactly what they're missing or what they've been looking for. So I still like it, still keeping the candle in the window for this bad boy,
I respect
Braylon
it.
Allen. Come
I
at me.
respect it. You are dying on that hill, and there's a lot. There's it's a decent sized hill these days, especially with him taking the
I
RB2 spot.
guess.
I would at
He's
least.
a
I,
big
I
ass
mean,
dude.
I already said, or I kind of thought he wouldn't even get that far. So I'm already been wrong on the Braylon Allen thing, so I'll let you guys take it for a ride, and I hope you're right. I hope he pops. I know Wisconsin would love that, so um
Well, the Jets need to get me in their running back scouting
yeah,
room
I guess
because
so.
we're
That
speaking the
you
same
you and
language
them
up
are on the
there.
same page for sure. All right. So to finish off today, we are going to hit you with some quick three sleepers and three busts, and I'm doing this on the fly. But do
Yep.
you think you want to go sleeper bust, do it like that, or do you want to do three sleepers, three busts?
I could go alternating. That sounds like
Okay.
fun.
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
Yeah.
I'll start off positive, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, so I'll just get into it. When talking about Malik Neighbors, one thing I forgot to mention, that GM's trying to save his job, so he's going to be pushing for Neighbors to get targets after taking him that early. And we saw Hard Knocks. If you watched it, we saw how badly they needed a pass catcher. But the problem with that is once you shorten the field, right? Now it's going to be hard to use that explosive playmaking ability for Neighbors as much. When you're in the red zone, you can double him more. He doesn't have as much space to move around, as much space to break open, which I think can potentially open up a spot for Theo Johnson. Now, Theo Johnson as a sleeper here, the camp
Ooh.
reports have been pretty consistently high on him. He's dealt with some injuries, which sucks, but he's a huge athletic target, 6'6". And he scored in the
Yeah.
90th percentile on the 40 on player profiler speed score, their burst score, and their catch radius. So when the
Mhm.
field gets tighter and easier to contain Neighbors, I think some red zone looks could be coming Theo Johnson's way. And I think it could be a pretty big benefit to him. Now, how many of those are they going to get? Who knows? I don't believe the Giants are going to be that great necessarily. So that's why he's a sleeper here. But there's an opportunity for him to take advantage of that mismatch in the red zone.
Yeah, love that, dude. I got him. I got shares of that.
Nice.
So he's a sleeper, but he's not undrafted by me in the fourth round of a
I think I
tight
got
end
him in the
premium
D
best ball
League,
league.
I think, in the defensive
Nice.
player league.
Nice. I love that. Man, that's funny. That's great. Yeah, I love that, dude. Theo Johnson for life. I got a tight end on here too.
Okay.
And I don't know, I guess what the sleeper level is when it comes to some of these guys, but I've got Jatavion Sanders.
Okay.
So first pick of the fourth round, fourth tight end taken. So I guess you can call him a sleeper. He's only 6 NFL draft picks higher than Theo Johnson. But it's a full rebranding for the Panthers skill position group.
Mm.
And from where I'm sitting, it's Leggett. He's got to fight off Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen. These are powerful veterans with probably a lot of pride, a lot to prove. That's going to be tough for Leggett to be like, hey, look at me, fresh and clean, ready to hit the scene. And then you got Jonathan Brooks likely out first month of the season. So this rookie class needs a win, and they need some definition for the future. And Sanders in a prime position to make that happen, man. He does not have any competition when it comes to the tight end room. So sorry, Tommy Trimble,
Mm.
Ian Thomas, you guys, you're still there. Block or whatever you got to do. Sanders was popping coming out of Texas. Obviously hit the combine, and it was a bit of a skid for his stock, but he has been a dynamic playmaker, and man, there's no one to stop him from trying it again.
Hmm.
So I'll
Yeah.
put him on the sleeper list.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Bryce Young needs targets. Like they redid the offense exactly like you're saying, and he needs people that he can rely on. And I think they did that with Deontay, and Adam Thielen's still there to be the second guy. But I do think having somebody in the middle of the field like a Jatavion Sanders could be hugely beneficial to Bryce Young. So I'm with you. Um, it is a perfect segue, however, into one of my busts. Because you mentioned him a couple times. It's Xavier Leggett. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because it sucks. I like Leggett. He seems really cool. Seems like a fun kid. But
It seems really cool.
but I'm sorry. Bryce Young's game does not scream deep field shots to big bodied, fast wide receivers. It's just not, that's not what it seems like he's going to be doing. And that's what they need Leggett to be. The camp reports, he's been pretty up and down. He was a raw prospect at best coming out of the draft anyway. So I feel like Leggett is going to be pretty boom or busty at best. The Panthers love taking these big, fast guys. And I feel like Leggett will end up being the best of the Taras Marshall, Jonathan Mingo, Xavier Leggett experiment, but I don't think that's a very high bar. And
Huh.
so I could see him kind of popping here and there, maybe having some big weeks, but I don't think he'll be consistent for you because I just don't think that's the type of play style that Bryce Young has. What fits him is a Deontay Johnson, a route runner that gets open and has good hand. That's the
Yeah,
guy that
possession.
Bryce Young wants to throw to. That's why we saw it with Adam Thielen last season. So I just don't. I get why they went for Leggett. They needed juice to this offense. It made sense. I just don't know from a fantasy aspect if it's going to work that well.
Yeah, this is definitely a wait and see. Not going to happen. Year one type
Hmm.
situation. Um, yeah, there was just such a long list of wideouts to go in the first round, and
Hmm.
here's Carolina just hoping for the best. But yep, yep, we'll see what happens. Yeah, no comment, I guess. I can't argue with that. The bust potential there. But I'm getting, my busts are all nasty. So just gonna get into it. Similar to what you're saying, man. I put Jalen Polk on the list
Okay. Okay.
as a bust. So I know. Maybe he's a sleeper for you. Who knows? We'll find out.
No.
But man, I had him as the third favorite Husky, coming out of
Hmm.
Washington as far as the
Yeah.
wide receivers go. I've not been shy about that. Obviously, I love
Hmm.
me some Jalen McMillan, and I think he is a better wideout. So I'm down on Polk, and then it just so happens that he goes to the Patriots, and I mean, there are few worse places for a wide receiver to go, in my opinion. They just have not cared
Hmm.
historically about establishing a wide receiver in the recent history. And now you've got Drake May, and we'll see how that goes. He might not even be their starter right out the gate. So we're contending with an uncertain quarterback situation and a team that is not known for high passing volume.
Hmm.
And we're going to just find out what happens. He's also got, Javon Baker, who's getting drafted ahead of him in half of the rookie drafts that I've done.
Hmm.
So it's obviously a mystery. And I feel like I know how this ends, and it's not like fantasy awesome. We've seen a couple of duds roll through the Patriots wide receiver rookie classes as of late, and I know
Almost
he's got a lot of
exclusively.
pedigree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got the Bob Douglas, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's well, yeah, unless you count Jacoby Myers, I it's hard to, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Polk, I guess, close to 1,200 yards, about 25% of the yardage for the Huskies last year is pretty
Hmm.
impressive. But I feel in a bust on this. Personally, kind of
Yeah.
not really feeling him.
I toyed with him around the bust area, but I was trying to not let my initial thoughts on him get in the way because the camp reports have been pretty good about him, and so I'm kind of leaning that
Yeah,
way. Although they've been good, but not like it pretty much has been like, oh, he's been good and consistent and catches what's thrown to him, but it's not like wow plays. So I think that kind of
mhm,
could fit exactly where you're at, like a guy who's a consistent role player on a bad offense. Is
right.
that good for fantasy? I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm with
Well,
you.
that it's like bust any Patriots wide receiver.
Yeah, pretty much.
you
And
know,
that's what I'm a Javon Baker guy myself. And
right.
even that is like I couldn't put him even on the sleeper list because I don't
Nope.
genuinely believe the Patriots are going to be that good on offense, not this year. However, you did set me up for a perfect segue once again because Jalen McMillan is my other sleeper for the season.
Nice.
Reports are that old McMillan is catching everything in camp.
Oh yeah, he
There's
is.
uh they have him playing out wide, which is
Oh
interesting to
yeah.
me. I kind of thought he made more sense in the slot, and obviously the reports are that
Godwin
they're
spot,
moving
baby.
Chris Godwin there. He's obviously the third fiddle in Tampa, and I don't know how much the third fiddle in Tampa is worth necessarily. But if you look at Trey Palmer, he did get 68 targets last season, which is a pretty decent little chunk. Didn't take much advantage of it, and I'm sorry, I know who I'd take in a matchup between Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer. So
Yeah,
there's a
buddy.
chance that he has a sneaky little role here, and we both liked him a lot. He pushed his way a decent length into the tournament, our off-season tournament that we did.
Yes, he
So
did.
so I'm with you. I think he has sneaky potential.
Sweet, man. I'm so glad you did that for me. Appreciate that
I got you.
with the whole of my heart. So, um, all right. Well, if we're gonna do this Florida thing, we got to do another guy that I really liked pre-draft, and I'm going with Malik Washington
Okay.
on the sleepers. Oh yeah, I don't know. Oh, am I tickling on you here?
I
Let's
like
see. You got to
Malik,
scroll
but
hard to get to the
yeah.
sixth round.
Yeah,
No,
that's tough.
too deep of a sleep for you.
I think so, yeah.
That's cool. Oh no, I've got to do it, man. This is just how it's going to happen for me right now in this moment because I don't think that OBJ is going to get anywhere near a full workload.
Hmm.
And I also looked at the snap numbers for the tight ends, and they don't run 12 personnel, period. So
That's
I think
fair.
there's a chance that three wide receiver sets,
Okay.
you get
I'd
Malik
love
out
to see
there.
it.
Um, Dude, well, I mean, think about it. Hill and Waddle are out there. It doesn't
Hmm.
really matter who the third guy is. You
Hmm.
know, we've talked about this. We don't want to see no Barrios, no Craycraft, none of that stuff. You got Taj Washington and you got Malik Washington, the two rookies. One of
Hmm.
those guys, if OBJ can't play consistently, which that's kind of a foregone conclusion for me personally. I think it's cool, OBJ, whatever you got to do. But I'm looking for one of these Washington rookies, by which I mean Malik and
And
Taj,
Taj.
sorry,
Yeah.
to get out there. Yeah, because it's like, is it Washington Commanders? Is it the Washington
Yeah.
Huskies? Or is it the dudes named Washington? Because there's
Yeah.
so many
There's so many
Washington
Washingtons running
affiliates in the wide
around.
receiver game.
No,
Nuts.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I like I love Malik Washington. Talk about a guy that pushed really far into the tournament, going over Keon Coleman, I believe, in
Yeah.
the Sweet 16, I think it was.
Yeah,
Uh
we should rehash that out,
we
next
should
year.
we should do that. So I would love for that to happen. And I think you're onto something. I mean, the OBJ reports and camp haven't been great. They've just been kind of meh. Um,
He's there.
so yeah, I would love to see that happen. All right, getting into another bust. We're gonna go back to negative territory. This one might be my most high profile.
Uh-oh.
It's not crazy high profile, but it's Trey Benson. I think I don't like it.
Uh,
Of the four guys that I thought could be like RB1s, he was my least favorite. I had some issues with his vision. Um,
mm,
and I think he's super explosive, obviously. But I mean, James Conner is just so clearly the guy in Arizona that it's crazy. Like the coaching staff loves him. They brought up Benson in an interview and he basically started talking about James Conner and Benson was like behind DeMarcado on the depth chart at one point. You hear Michael Carter's getting some buzz lately. And I just don't, there's not been any buzz on Benson. You try to find something on him, and it's basically just kind of nothing. Like there's not a lot going around about him, at
nothing.
least that I've seen. And then he comes out in his preseason debut, 8 carries, 21 yards. That's not great. I
You
think
don't get it.
he's more raw of a prospect than people thought he was. And I think the draft got us excited, and then People just got really excited on him, and I do like him as a prospect, but in terms of this year specifically, I think he's going to be little use for your fantasy roster, maybe projecting going forward. When if James Conner does end up leaving at the end of the year, then maybe we can talk about it again. But in terms of this season, I am pretty out on Trey Benson.
All about the big JC dub. James Conner for life. But no, it just speaks to the shallow running back class and like
hmm
the appeal of a landing spot. Like even if you have to stretch it to make it fit, this is probably, aside from the Carolina backfield, probably, one of the juicier landing spots. I still
hmm
can't believe Dallas didn't draft a
Yeah,
running
that's
back, but
insane.
you look at the rest of these guys and they have legit number ones to contend with pretty much all the way down the
hmm
line. Um, and there's call me crazy, but I don't think it gets any more obvious of a situation for that exact scenario than my dude, Mr. Bust, Blake Corum.
Oof.
So
Okay.
yeah, coming up against Kyron Williams, I just don't see it. As far as like, where he's being drafted as pretty much the third running back after
hmm
Benson and Brooks in this
hmm
class. I can't get
I'm
behind
with
that.
you.
We loved Kyron last year. Like, dude was serious, just over 200 carries, only had 12 rushing touchdowns though. And here's where it gets for me interesting. It's the low number for Matthew Stafford's passing touchdowns at 24. And the
Uh-huh.
fact that, obviously, man, Puka Nakoa, like, give me something to talk
hmm
about. And then you got Cooper Cup, like these dudes combining for over 2,300, 2,300 receiving yards, but only had 11 touchdowns.
hmm
Whereas Matthew Stafford a few
Ooh.
years ago threw 40 touchdowns
hmm
without a Puka Nakoa on a team with the healthy Cooper Cup. I see this offense going further into the passing role
hmm
and away from the rushing game. Kyron was great. He was
Yeah.
awesome for the role that he was needed in last year, but he held it down for the entire team. And I get that you get Corum, who's got that red zone type power, known as a goal line, get her done kind of guy, probably kind of limited to a role like that. But for me, there's not a need for that on this team enough to give him the fantasy viability that I don't think the reality is going to match the dreams that some people are putting out there for Corum, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think Kyron comes down a little bit though. I've kind of pounded that table all
Of
off
course.
season. So I do think it kind of middles out. But yeah, people I would much rather have Wright. I'd much rather have Lloyd over Corum. And I haven't really wavered on that. So yeah, in terms of busting that way, I'm pretty with you. I think he could have a good couple years, but I don't see his like career being that crazy. Um, Keeping it in the running back room for my final sleeper here, pretty quick one. I got Dylan Labe, or Laub.
Yeah.
Camp reports are he's taken some first team reps quite a bit, which is pretty interesting. We saw in college that he's an excellent receiver out of the backfield, 68 catches and almost 700 yards. Obviously competition, whatever. But that's still a pretty decent chunk through the air. And I think he could be a really complementary piece to Zamir White in an offense that may dump the ball off quite a bit. Because I don't know how good they're going to be with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Now, both those guys seem more like gunslinger risk takers, so maybe they're not going to drop the ball off that much. But I do think is a role in this offense that Laub can take advantage of.
I'm in, dude. I mean, there's just such a opportunity. I mean, we'd be saying the same thing if he was on the Cowboys, right?
Yeah.
I don't see that big of a difference
hmm
when you're going toe to toe with
Yeah.
Zamir versus Zeke. I
Zeke.
mean,
Yeah.
Z versus Z. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know how well you can really track that. But I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Okay, well, I'll get into my last sleeper, and I'm going. I know, like you guys probably could have done a bingo card and blacked it out at this point with my guys, but I'm doing Audric Estime.
Okay.
I really
Makes
do
sense.
think he's extremely undervalued. I mean, this is a guy that I watched a film on, and at first I was like, I didn't get it, and then I looked at the PFF grades, and he was the top guy. Like he was
Hmm.
over the moon, and then I kept watching, and just to watch like the short area speed and agility for a guy with his power and size, it really did blow me away, and I got super into him and the whole Denver offense, like I've got faith in any rookie on this team because there's such a void of defined role players that
Yeah.
I think that any of them could strike out and be successful. And obviously Javonte Williams, like we've been there, we've done that, we love him, but he hasn't really come through
Hmm.
in the way that anybody was hoping he would.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I think that there's a chance for Estimate to be the most reliable option in this backfield. Jaleel McLaughlin, dude, like the guy is poppy as hell, and we all got super excited about him statistically and
Yeah.
efficiency wise. He is there, but I don't look at him as a workhorse, and I just have this feeling that Denver is over Javante, for
Hmm.
reasons out of his control and just like things what could have been never really
Hmm.
came to fruition. So I just look at Audric as a guy that will be surprisingly successful and have a surprising amount of volume, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could see that. I do think I've been with you on that sentiment all offseason about Javante. I do think the heat on him is starting to heat up lately. It seems like he's starting to look a little better in camp, so that's worth keeping an eye on for a player
Jeez,
that we both liked. But I do think there
let's
is a
do it.
role there, regardless, for the number two guy. I don't see it being P. Ryan. I think they can save a little money by moving on from him if they haven't already, and I missed that or something. But
Not that I know of.
I could see Estime having a role here for sure. And this, hey, one more time, setting me up perfectly for my last bust because it's Bo
Yeah.
Nix. It's he's a I don't like Bo Nix. Um, Bo Nix is accurate. Won't deny that, especially short yardage, and mid range. He can play on time. He has a good arm. You can see why Sean Payton wanted him. But am I really supposed to get excited that Sean Payton got the sixth quarterback off the board in the draft with a bad roster? A guy that I think most teams would not have spent a first round pick on. So when looking at the Broncos just as a whole, one of two things is going to happen this season to me. Sean Payton's going to prove me wrong, lead this team to a bunch of success. Bo Nick's going to be great. The offense is going to look good. They're going to move on to bigger and better things next year. Or I think Sean Payton gets exposed this year, and that's the way I'm leaning. You can throw all the blame you want on Russell Wilson for how bad the Broncos offense was last season and talk about how Sean Payton was scheming people open and it was all Russell Wilson's fault. Whatever, fine. Russell Wilson hasn't been great. It's hard to argue with you. But then let's see it. Let's see it. You built this
Right.
team. You got Cortland Sutton. You got Josh Reynolds. You got Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, who's dropping everything in camp. And a
Of course
mediocre,
he is, dude. I
yeah, of
told
course
you.
he is. You got a mediocre offensive line, and you don't even want to play your best receiving tight end in Greg Dulcich because you're in love with Adam Troutman and had to bring him over. Why don't we just make this whole
Horseshit.
thing a big circle and send a second to the Saints and pick up Taysom Hill? Like, what are we?
There you go.
I
Why
don't.
not?
I just think the Broncos are going to be bad. I just don't think they're going to be very good. I think they have like one superstar on defense now. It's Patrick Surtain. He can't do it by
Yep.
himself. Their offense is led by a rookie quarterback who I didn't like, with not that many great weapons. Cortland Sutton, admittedly, pretty underrated. Marvin Mims, boomer bust guy to me. Josh Reynolds is fine, and Troy Franklin, meh. So I just don't see it happening. And then just specifically about Bo Nix, if he doesn't develop the ability to like go past his first reads, I don't think he's going to be successful. And when I say first reads, I mean like they develop plays a lot of times where it's like one and two are kind of in the same place, so you can look. And so it's like his first two reads, and then once he has to go off the script of where he's meant to be on the play, I just genuinely think he falls apart. Like his accuracy goes out the window, his mechanics go out the window, his decision making, I feel like can even go out the window. But he's good enough like to make some of these plays, and that's why he is where he is. But I think his ceiling, like absolute ceiling, is Derek Carr. Like that's the
Ish.
absolute best he could ever be. And his floor is Zach Wilson. So that's not a guy
Uh,
that I'm like at those odds, I'm not really interested. And so to me, if he doesn't now, if he develops the ability to play out of that controlled situation where he's super great, and admittedly, I don't want to take this away from him. The short yardage accuracy is crazy good. Even the mid range and the on time scheduled throws and stuff are really, really good. But in a league where Patrick Mahomes has to throw parallel, like at a parallel angle to the ground sometimes to get throws off,
yeah.
do you really think Bo Nix's play style is going to translate to long-term NFL success? Because I am
No.
skeptical.
No chance, man. Yeah, Knicks. What a roasted pick out the gate, man. Good for them. Good for him. Ugh. Good call, man. Gotta love that. Got one player left, man. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. I gotta tell you though, as a fan of our podcast, which I am, a huge
Hmm.
fan, um, we are not a bust.
Oh,
We are
nice.
not a bust. And
Hell
I'll tell
yeah.
you why we're not a bust. Because in this episode, there were five eggplant year one starters and then three in three different categories between the outdo your ADP, the sleepers, and the bust. That's a 28 possible rookies that could have been discussed. And we only clashed on three. So we
Oh,
are bringing you 25 or 28 possible rookies. This is
nice.
beautiful. We
It's
are
great.
amazing.
Hell
And
yeah.
so, with that aside, I got to bring up the last bust and, you know, stick with me. We're not a bust, but I'm going Brock Bowers, man.
Ooh, ooh,
I know.
ooh. Okay.
Throw the tomatoes at me.
Damn.
What are we doing with
That's a
this
bold
guy?
swing. Okay.
Are we seriously taking him at the 1-4?
Hmm.
I get it. He's very talented. He's quite amazing, but he's playing for the Raiders. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Let's remember that. The Raiders are beautiful, right? This is a solid team. These guys just took Michael Mayer. They're going to find a way to use him. Devontae Adams is still on this team. He
Hmm.
is going to have 140 targets. They've got a good thing going with Jacoby Myers. There's a lot from last year, second half of the season that I think they're really going to try and push going forward. And it was not friendly for a tight end. I understand they're going to use them as a receiver, but who's throwing the ball? Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew?
Hmm.
Do we need to relive the wasted years of Kyle Pitts' rookie contract in Atlanta with shitty quarterback play before we wake up and just take a Dunze? Anybody.
Hmm.
Take Brooks, take Lad McConkey, take any of these other middle of the first round guys over Brock Bowers. I just think that the price is a little high. I think you have other options. I think that a starting tight end, whether it's Evan Ingram or Dallas Goddard or even Mark Andrews at this stage, are obtainable for less than a top half of the first round pick. And I just feel like it's a little rich. I feel like he's going to disappoint on the capital, and I feel like he is going to be a great player for the volume he gets, but I don't think that this team is going to maximize his potential in any kind of way. I think we're going to be let down a little bit. That's what I'm saying about that's what I'm saying about Brock Bowers.
Hey man, I hear you. It's a bold swing, but it's hard to argue with what you're saying. I mean, I don't love the Raiders. I just talked about it with Dylan Lobb. So like, yeah, I mean, there's a chance that I mean, rookie tight ends tend to start slow. Now they are going to line him up outside. It seems like kind of
Of
use him
course.
as like this crazy Swiss Army knife player. But let me
Yeah.
ask a question, like outside of maybe Debo Samuel, how many times have you heard somebody described as a Swiss Army knife and it translated to like fantasy success? Like maybe
Curtis Samuel, dude.
on the field success for the team, but like I don't know. Like I just feel like that stuff they get a little cute sometimes. And like you're saying, like he could be super highly efficient for the volume that he gets, but is the volume that he gets going to warrant when like you're saying, Roma Dunze's going off, or any of these guys, Lad McConkey's catching 5 passes a game. Like, is that volume gonna make you happy? And I maybe not. I could absolutely see people being let down by Bowers this year for sure.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. He feels like the final piece to a team, not like the first building block.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's a
100%.
guy that wins games for you when you're playing from behind and you're hoping like Gardner Minshew can
Hmm.
unlock a victory. Like those balls are not going to him. Those are
Yeah,
going to Adams.
Adams. Yep.
There's going to be some scrappy, weird stuff.
Hmm.
This is a player for a put together offense, and I don't think we're talking about one right now.
Not at this moment, no.
So,
Well, there you have it. There is our Ring Around a Rookie episode, bringing it back to where we belong in this podcast, talking about the young guns. So we're gonna hit you
bring
next
it.
week. I think we have to collab again about what we're doing. I think I more less collab, more me needs a reminder. But until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
I took a lease out on your heart.